that there was 1 week, every day of the week I cried. Really, because I was so stressed. But then I couldn't really tell the team that I was stressed, right?
Yes, yes.
And actually at that point of time, I mean, in our business of law, our biggest cost is the talents,
Yes.
right? So I was running through my head if I had to let go of somebody to save the ship, you know. So every single person, I was actually thinking about it, and that was incredibly difficult. Letting go of people is one of the most difficult things and actually, honestly, the thing that I hate most about managing the firm.
Hi everyone, I'm Shulin, here to inspire you on the infinite possibilities after the bar. This is a podcast where I speak with lawyers and former lawyers with a broad range of experiences, different backgrounds, different walks of life, people who have achieved incredible things. And today we have a digital assets and tech specialist lawyer on the podcast. She's here to talk about things like metaverse, NFTs, and digital assets. She's none other than Ying. Thanks for coming, Ying. So Ying is ranked as one of the top 10 cryptocurrency experts in the world. Her accolades are frankly too many to list. I will just mention a couple of them. She's slated in the top 40 under 40 list of lawyers in Asia. She's also listed as one of Singapore's most influential lawyers. She's a true trailblazer because just only 6 years ago, she was the only female lawyer noted in the industry. In fact, in a previous interview, she said that her strength is in simplifying the complicated, which is precisely why I invited her here today. Welcome, Ying. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Shulin.
Yeah, really excited to have you here because, to be honest, I'm one of those who don't know much about the whole world of digital assets and metaverse and Web3. So would love to hear more from you. But
Thank
before
you.
we get into that, congratulations on your new role with Simmons.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it's been, how long has it been?
7 months?
7 months, okay. And you've had quite a journey because you started off in a law firm and then you went to China in a business development role where you even launched a mall.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that happen? And then you came back to law. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey?
Well, I've always wanted to do business. I only took law because I was an arts girl, and law is the only professional degree I could take, right? So if you ask my friends 20 years ago whether they would think Ying is going to be a lawyer, everybody would say no, she's hardly in school anyway. So, so the irony of it all is that amongst my peers, I'm one of the few left in practice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's funny because now that I've been in practice for a sufficiently long time, I realized that law is a great place for me to develop my interest in business and also become a professional.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more on that because in 2014, you came back and then I think you started your own law firm and you specialized in IP litigation and then you went on to do venture capital, which is what you're saying, like business and even fundraising.
Oh,
So,
okay. So
Yeah.
so I came back and I joined a very, very newly set up firm. At that time, our focus was on IP and tech already. It was an incredible time to do IP litigation. We had ex-Justice George Wei, who's very, very well known,
Yes.
right? We all know that. And he is such an important figure in the IP law development scheme, in my view.
Yes.
Right. So I happened to be there where I could make new law. Oh, okay. Not that I made new law, right? I participated in making new law. And that was incredibly satisfying. And I decided to pivot a little bit into non-contentious work because I've always had problems sleeping.
Oh,
And for IP litigation, the trials take forever because you're an ex-IP lawyer,
Yes.
so you know the issues are really, really at times quite pedantic, right? So,
yes.
so the trials are always very long. It's at least 6 days to 10 days, right? So I always had to take sleeping pills.
Oh.
But in one of my last matters, I got pregnant.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I obviously can't take sleeping pills.
Yeah.
So I decided that I will move out of contentious work.
Oh, I
And-
never knew this.
Yeah, and
Wow.
focus on the non-contentious side
Okay.
of things because I started my career actually as a capital markets lawyer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And the reason why I actually like capital markets work is because you spend, I mean, as a junior lawyer, you spend all day long in the printers, writing the prospectus, reviewing. And people only say good things about their business in prospectus, right? So you learn about the business of a company that is successful enough to exit, right? So I figured, okay, if I'm interested in that, I should just focus more on the non-contentious side of work, which honestly I have already been doing, except that I was trying to straddle both, which is very difficult, right?
Yeah.
So that was the pivoting moment.
That's incredible. I never knew that it was your pregnancy that then propelled you into this
Yes.
world.
Yes.
Yeah, because I always found it very fascinating when people change practice areas, and you did that. It seemed like quite flawlessly, that transition.
Well, I guess the core of it is still the same. It's still IP issues. It's still tech issues that I'm dealing with, except that I'm not going to court anymore, right? Which I miss terribly, even though I'm not fantastic, but I really miss it. So I just try to do it in the boardroom instead.
There are your own battles to fight in the boardroom, right? So different setting, but still,
setting,
yes. And at one point, because you were managing the firm, you had 16 employees.
Yes.
And I remember a massive office. And
It's okay.
yeah, and I was just wondering, because you're also a mom to two young boys. So how did you do it all? And that was for quite a long period of time.
I was very fortunate. I had a very good team, both at work and at home. And I think it is very important to have people supporting you, right? And I was just incredibly fortunate that way. I had clients that supported me. They were very understanding when I was pregnant consecutively, because I had 2 kids, and I popped 2 kids quite quickly.
Back to back.
Yeah, back to back. And they were incredibly supportive. So that's great. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. And it's true, it takes a village. I have 2 young boys too. And actually, personally, what I love about you, Ying, is you have this can-do attitude. In the period of time that I've known you, you're never phased. When I tell you about, some of my challenges, you're like, yeah, shouldn't. I mean, it's not like a been there, done that kind of thing, but you're like, yeah, shouldn't this is how you can do it. So maybe that's why your clients continue to support you. You have that kind of energy. So when you faced some challenges, I'm sure along the way, is there a particular challenge in your journey as a law firm managing partner that were seemingly insurmountable, and then you still managed to overcome them? Could you share?
Yeah, I think the very defining moment, right, in my career as a managing partner was during the COVID period. There was a period of 2 weeks, right, when I did not receive any new instructions. And that was, honestly, right, I was scared to death. I was really scared to death because, the economy was bad. I have a whole team that I felt were on my shoulders, including their families, right? And then you have our PM saying that things are really bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether, I think I've said this to quite a few people, right? I said that there was 1 week, every day of the week I cried. Really, because I was so stressed. But then I couldn't really tell the team that I was stressed, right?
Yes.
And actually at that point of time, I mean, in our business of law, our biggest cost is the talents,
Yes.
right? So I was running through my head if I had to let go of somebody to save the ship. So every single person, I was actually thinking about it. And that was incredibly difficult. Letting go of people is one of the most difficult things and actually, honestly, the thing that I hate most about managing the firm. I mean, I've let go of people, obviously, but that was the thing I hated the most. Yeah.
I never knew
Yeah, it was actually quite. I mean, thank goodness for us. So the decision we took later with my partner was that we would go on a 4-day work week.
Okay.
Right, so that everybody gets to keep their job, and because realistically, also in my team, everybody has a different specialty, right, and I can't really do without any of them. So we decided, okay, 4-day work week. We'll reduce the fees.
You mean reduce
the
their
salaries, right? Okay. The good thing is we actually announced pay increment for the previous year, and we actually stuck to it even though it was COVID.
Wow.
So it wasn't too bad, we felt, right? And fortunately for us, I think the work came back very quickly. And as you probably know, right, most law firms had experienced a boom.
Yes,
Subsequently.
they did. So how long was that lull period? So you said you were crying every day for what, 1-2 weeks?
For 1 week, yeah.
Okay.
And then when I was making that decision and thinking about what to do, I think we reinstated the salaries. I think within a month or two.
Yeah.
So the work started coming back with a
Yes.
vengeance, which was great.
Yes.
So, and then we had a very, very good year and an even better year the year after. So
Yeah.
so we were very fortunate that in that way. But that particular incident actually stayed with me. Yeah, and I felt, when you always have good business, right? You don't think about it. You always think you're invincible, right? But that incident left me feeling very, very vulnerable, and not just for myself, right? It's for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was one of the most defining moments in my career, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I'm beginning to understand why you then decided to move away from running your own firm
Yes.
to join a large international firm, Simmons. Because to be very honest, I didn't get it at first. Like I got it because I'm also a small business owner,
Yeah.
and like you, in fact, I had 3 months worth of no revenue, and that was like the scariest period professionally ever. So I can relate. Things came back very quickly, and but it was also a defining moment for me. But okay, more on that later. We're here to talk about you. So can we talk a little bit more about making that decision to close your own very profitable law firm to join a large firm, So I'm beginning to understand that, but were there other things playing on your mind?
Yeah, so I think that incident actually affected my psyche a lot. So I've always been quite gung ho, right? Like if it's a lead or it's an opportunity, I would chase it, and I'm normally quite as long as it's a good client, right?
Yes.
But I think after the incident, I felt more like, I am stressed out. Like I'm obsessed about like making sure that we build enough, making sure we collect enough. And actually at that time, my legal ops team was whipped up very well by one of the director of legal ops that I hired. Because we really became a lot more like a more professionally managed firm, right? But half the time, I think I was worrying, and that was extremely unproductive, right? So now with my kids, my kids are 5 and 4, right? And we are at a time where they started to have their own minds.
Yes.
They will get upset when you're not around. And I asked myself, and actually, no, my husband said, you are home, but you're not home.
Not present.
Yeah, I'm not present. And my response always is, when your KPI is money, right?
Keeping the ship afloat.
Yeah, keeping the ship afloat, right? And I wasn't enjoying the work that I enjoy. There are parts of legal practices that I really enjoy. And worrying obviously is not.
No.
It's not the part that I enjoy, right? So that was one. Like I felt that I couldn't spend quality time with my family. That was first and foremost. The second was that because of my clientele, I do a lot of work in the digital business space, right? And the work is international because it's digital business. And when you're in a smaller setup, we do have a UK connection, but it's just UK and Singapore. It wasn't enough. I actually needed a platform that I could assist my clients more, right? So geographically, I think Simmons fits that bill because we're almost everywhere except for USA, right? And I was also very surprised that one, they are quite strict about the no a-hole policy.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
Which is great, right? And it's been 7 months. I haven't found an a-hole yet, so that's great.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and
let's hope it stays that way.
Hope it stays that way, and I think it will, right? And I think they are very very strong in the areas of practices that I am involved in,
like
right? Tech, fintech,
venture cap.
Venture cap, maybe not so until recently.
Okay,
right?
until you joined.
No. There were a couple of new joiners just before me, and they actually brought up the venture cap practice.
Oh yes,
quite
like
well.
Dex.
Like Dex. And then I think in UK we have Frances. So she's very, very good. And actually all 3 of us, when we joined Simmons, our books grew. Yeah, because
yes,
there's a synergy and it's very
Yes.
collaborative, right?
yes.
So that was, I felt, a reason. And I think from a management perspective, when you're in a small setup, right, no matter how much you wish to nurture and grow your people, right, there will always be the conflict between being profitable and paying them enough.
Wow.
Okay.
It's true,
It's true. And I was
it's
having
true.
I was having that thought that day, and I'm like, but it's so different in a setup like Simmons, because now I can wholeheartedly tell my team that you should develop your BD skills. You should do this because it is a machine, right?
Yeah.
And there are ranks you can move up to. So in terms of career progression, in terms of you developing your own practice, it is a very safe platform for
Okay.
you to build your own business.
Wow.
Right? I mean, it's and I realized I couldn't give that to my previous team.
When you were running your own firm.
Exactly, which is why it's very difficult to keep talents. And the practice of law is about talents,
Yeah, totally.
right?
Absolutely.
So that I felt was one of the other reason, right? Plus I hate dealing with HR stuff. So so it's fantastic that somebody else is dealing with it.
I see.
Right?
But your
Yeah.
clients and your family and friends, they must have been taken aback, right? When you first announced this
Yeah.
decision. They're like,
Yeah.
why are you closing your own firm?
Correct. And they were like, but you had so much freedom, and
Yes.
but with more freedom comes greater responsibility.
Yeah, there's a price.
Right? There's a price to pay.
Yes.
And I felt like if I add all the factors up, the skills tilt stronger to joining a more established setup.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So now that we've heard, about your journey, I would love for you to talk more. I would like to talk about blockchain, digital assets, all things tech, because I personally don't know that much. I know what most regular people know. Can you explain in like layman terms what to our listeners out there what crypto, blockchain, Web3, metaverse, NFTs are in as simple terms as possible?
Okay. I think let's try to demystify it. Right?
Okay.
Maybe I will use a parallel. Right. Internet.
Yes.
Our current internet. Many, many, many years ago when it first came out, nobody knew what it was, right? But it basically is a network that links computers up in a very simplistic manner, right? But now we don't even need to know how the internet works, because there are so many people who built on it. And for us, it's as simple as turning on our mobile phone and it works, right? So the underlying DLT, right, which
What's DLT?
distributed ledger technology,
Okay.
right, of which blockchain is an example of, it is similar to that, right? And I think that we don't need, as a layman, right, because I'm also a layperson, right, we don't really need to know exactly how it works. We just need to know that it is a new technology. Well, it's not new anymore. That it's a technology that will help to ease the connection of users. Okay, and the applications are varied. Right, we have cryptocurrency, which of course, as with most things, speculation, people make money. Cryptocurrency is the first, right? But there are a lot of useful things. For example, especially if you link it up with other technology like IoT. So like in the logistics space, if you could trace the provenance of this, which you need IoT to, right? Let's say you affix something, a label to this, you scan it, right? It goes into an immutable ledger, right? It goes into various warehouses. When it arrives at your home, right, in order to tell whether it's the same cup, right, and whether it's the same authentic cup, you have that ledger there that nobody can change, right? So just think about it
Okay, I'm
that way.
beginning.
Yeah,
Baby steps.
baby steps. But I mean, of course, I'm oversimplifying it because there are various applications, right? But the reason why it's, despite the various winters, right, it's still, in my view, still going strong, is because everyone knows how useful the tech is. Cryptocurrency maybe not so much. There's a time and place for it.
Yeah.
But we are looking increasingly at tokenized assets.
Yes.
Right? And why? Because it allows assets to be distributed and fractionalized probably at a much lower cost. Right? Because you don't need somebody to keep the ledger. Right? So there are various applications, but I think the reason why it's so popular is precisely because there are various applications. Yeah.
Okay. And back in 2017, so about 7 years ago, you were one of the very first few movers, and definitely the only female lawyer advising in this space. One of the first few.
Yeah, I think one of the
So
first.
what made you move into this digital assets world? Have you always been a techie person by nature?
Yes, in a way. I always like. Actually, I like enterprise solutions, SaaS. I was looking a lot at that for my own practice, for years. And that's related to my IP and tech practice, right? Anyway, so I was already doing a lot of outsourcing work, etc. At that time, which was also around the time where I decided to move out of contentious work, right? There was this huge hoo-ha about blockchain, about cryptocurrency. So I just went to read, right? And it's interesting to me. I mean, I like reading about tech developments. It's not just blockchain, right? Because it's part and parcel of my work. And incredibly, at the same time, a very old friend of mine reached out. And he is he is a very successful, I wouldn't say he's a business person because he is a very successful tech guru. He exited many companies. And at that point when he contacted me, it was a rather popular social media app that his company has run. And he thought that the application of blockchain would be interesting. So it was like a side project that he looked at. And he said, "Hey Ying, do you know anything about blockchain?" And then obviously I was very honest, right? I'm like, it's super new, even to me, but actually I've been reading about it and I've been writing articles about it. So he said, "Okay, so I'm thinking of doing something. Do you think we can work together?" So we just jumped at it. So I'm very grateful because he knew that I was completely like a noob, right? And I was like fighting with the big brand names, right? I'm not even like like the Magic Circle brand names. But in the end, I think, and fees wise, actually, I wasn't even that much cheaper. But I think he trusted me in a way because I always responded, right? So I think that was the start, and because of that very successful first project, incredible because there are a lot of fluff, right, in the market.
In the beginning, it was more fluff.
Yeah,
for most.
There's still quite
trying to figure out.
Yeah, but there's still quite a bit of fluff now. But I was very fortunate because the first project I had was so credible, and he then introduced a lot of his contacts to me.
Sometimes you just need that one person to take a chance on you.
Correct. And he took a chance on me. So I'm always forever grateful.
Yeah. Amazing. And how about Web3?
Okay.
Are you able to give us like a summarized version that can help illustrate some of the legal complications that can come up in the Web3 space?
Web3 actually is not a real defined term, right? So Web3 is basically the stage at which the internet's at. So if we look at, when we say Web 1, or actually I always tease my husband, I always say he's a Web 1 dinosaur because he works for ICANN, which coordinates the internet, right? So they actually look after the internet infrastructure. So that's Web 1, right? Then Web 2, you have your social media apps. You have your Google, you have maybe not Yahoo anymore, but Google, you have your Facebook, Meta, you have Instagram. That's when people start using that for social use. Web 3, my view of what people mean by Web 3, right, is probably more aligned with the metaverse, embedded finance, which is already happening. So now we are probably at 2.5. How I actually do a lot of my banking transactions over like my mobile, right? So Web3 would be a lot more transactions taking place, I think, over the internet.
Okay, so Ying, I'm going to ask one of the obvious questions that might be running through some of our listeners' minds. Since you were one of the first movers in 2017, did you make a big pile of money from crypto?
Well, I think I did invest, right? Because I needed to know how it works. So it's more from that point of view. And if you hold long enough, probably you make money. I can't even remember how much I bought my Bitcoins for, right? But I think it's still lesser than now. So I guess yes, but I didn't make a whole lot of money.
Okay. And with FTX's troubles and all the naysayers saying that this spells the doom for crypto, what are your thoughts around that?
I actually think it's pretty positive in the sense that you need regulation because you are playing with people's money, right? And it's people's livelihoods. And with regulation would come legitimacy, right? And I think that Temasek has gotten a lot of flack for FTX, but honestly, it is part and parcel of their strategy, right? And when it comes to very new cutting edge strategies like that, especially in the VC world, right? You don't need all 10 to succeed, right? We all know that.
That's
right?
true.
Correct. So I am of the view that I wouldn't say it's positive because I do know of a lot of people who lost, right? But in the long run, right? I think it will bring a lot of regulation and how MAS is doing it, in my view, is actually very balanced. I mean, I do have a lot of clients asking, is Singapore going to ban crypto, etc., etc.? I'm like, no, just look at the new round of consultations, right? It's very clear where their thoughts are, right? My only concern is that as we have more peripheral sectors moving into blockchain, whether they will get caught. So, for example, the biggest, I think, sector that has the biggest use case for blockchain would be gaming. And I'm not talking about gambling, okay? I'm talking about like video games, etc.
Yes.
And it's interesting because I spoke with an investor of a very big traditional video gaming company, and I asked, why are you doing at your age a startup for blockchain gaming? And he said, because this is where our clients want to go to. Yeah. It's always the future generation, right?
Yes.
Right? And they want a stake in all these virtual assets that have spent so much time investing in. Right? So that to me was quite interesting. And the other secret he told me was that, all these traditional gaming companies, right? They will tell you, blockchain, no. Actually, they're all looking at it. So, so
I see.
So he said, I think that it's imperative that I know what's going on and that I'm investing in it. Right.
Now I find that it's imperative that I know what is blockchain gaming about. It might be the next big thing, which is actually the next question I wanted to ask you, because you're one of the first movers in 2017 into digital assets. What's the next big thing? What's the next big thing we should look at? Is it blockchain gaming, like you just said?
No, I think blockchain gaming is because the gaming industry is bigger than music plus movies added together, right?
Well, now I know.
I know that because I have a bunch of colleagues that started this whole gaming team within Simmons, and they're all probably at least 10 years younger than me. So they're very, very keen on this, right?
So when you say bigger, you mean financially?
Financially, right?
Bigger than
movies plus music added together. What? Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, right, the real serious gamers, they spend a lot of time playing games. I mean, do you play any? I'm not actually a very avid gamer, right? But like for a while, one of my colleagues introduced me to, is it Wordle? Is it?
Yes,
you know that word game, right?
Yes.
And the tendency to want to just buy a cheat.
Oh.
It's like $1.99. But imagine how many $1.99s there are.
Oh, wow.
Right? And it's become part and parcel of people's life, right?
Oh.
And like my niece, who's now a university student, okay, I'm old, but she basically told me that like her bunch of classmates, when they go for outings, their outings include sitting down and playing games on their own mobile phones with everybody.
Wow.
I know it's a bit.
It's not the Pokemon
That's also one of those, right? But it is more. It's more just because I'm not a real gamer, right? But it is a lot more common, I think, than people think.
Yes.
Right?
Well, definitely more common than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know it's something that is bigger than movies and music combined.
Yeah.
Okay, I cannot wrap my head around that. Okay, let's talk about you as a female lawyer. You know, you're a partner, you're Asian, you're Singaporean in an international firm. What's one thing that's always on your mind? I know as a managing partner of your own firm, it was about profitability. I mean, I'm sure you're still looking at profitability, but now that, there's so many other concerns, you're bringing in new clients, you're servicing the work, managing your team, what's the main thing that you focus on?
Keeping a good balance. I'm sorry. I was thinking, can I choose one out of the three, right? And I realized I can't, right? Because I always tell like my team members, right? Just aim, okay? 75 marks across everything. You can't just aim 90 marks for one subject and fail the others, right? So just aim for 75 across the board, right? And in different circumstances or when you have different capacity, then you can probably focus a bit on something else, right? So that's
Interesting. And what's the main thing on your mind like right now?
right now. You mean now as a partner in an international firm?
Yes, because now you're, I mean, it's quite different, right? You started your own firm. It's been 7 months now in a big firm. There are different sorts of challenges, and I'm sure you handle all of them like a pro. But yeah, has your attitude toward changing, towards practicing changed? Has that changed?
Yes, because I think number one, I'm less stressed about survival, right? Instead of, I mean, the question is no longer, will I be able to earn enough to give pay increments and bonuses? To okay lah, it's just about earning more or less, right? So that is a huge shift. So now, most weekends, my team and I don't work.
Wow.
I mean, we work like crazy during the weekdays, right? But we try to keep our weekends clean. And with my kids, actually, I feel like I'm more present.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that I think I've achieved what I really wanted to achieve. That's the first achievement, right?
Yes.
So I'm quite happy about it.
Yeah.
Well, the second thing, I guess, right now, because I just joined, I'm still trying to get to know my colleagues more. Because, with 300 partners, I traveled, I think I made 3 trips in 6 months. I'm probably traveling again next week. Just to different offices, because I think there's still nothing that beats that face-to-face thing, right? Because when you know what your colleagues are capable of, you can sell more.
For sure.
Yeah, and you can deliver better.
Yes.
Right? So it's I'm still at the discovery stage, I think. Yeah.
Okay, great. And can you tell us a little bit about how you feel about being a female lawyer, a partner, and a mentor to our next generation of lawyers? Because I'm a firm believer there's so much more that we can do to support fellow rising stars. I mean, you were once a young associate too, and then there were role models for you.
I think. Okay, I'm not sure whether I'm a good mentor, honestly. Okay,
I'm sure you are.
I am.
I'm sure you are.
Assume I
I'm sure you are.
I'm trying to think what I do deliberately that would help. Okay, within my own team, one, I try to make sure that practice is sustainable, right? And all of us have different circumstances.
Yes.
Correct. So you can't assume that just because I have done it and I can make it, so you should too, right?
That's a very common assumption.
Yes, that's a very common assumption, and I think that is something that I'm trying to learn and trying to be more understanding of, right? And I'm arrowed to be the diversity and inclusion partner in Singapore office, so I need to learn a little bit, right? But I have learned that like, for example, we have moved away from women to parents of young children, because the reality is that there are a lot more hands-on fathers nowadays.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and
so mothers and fathers alike.
mothers and fathers, right? So that's one of the focus areas that we have. And my husband will be super happy that I'm saying, I'm mentioning the father's thing, because he always felt like, hey, I'm super hands-on too, right?
Yes,
And I'm still trying to make this work, right? But I guess that's one area, and being understanding about that, right? So one of my colleagues, one of my team members actually went on maternity leave just shy of 3 months, and technically, I think if you go by legal terms, she should not be eligible
for maternity
leave, right? But my Simmons is like really cool and chill about it, and so obviously we gave her what she needed, right? And now she's back, and obviously when she was away, we tried to make sure that she has enough cover, etc. And it's just about doing that, I think, for each and every person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, making practice sustainable for associates is a topic that's very dear to my heart, because I mean, you know what I do for a living, and we speak with jaded associates every other day, and it really starts from the top. So if you're saying that you're no longer having to work weekends, you're really role modeling for the next generation how it's possible for you. Yeah.
And I think that it's funny because there are different people. I mean, okay, they work very hard, right? Our target 1,600 hours, so so they still have to fulfill that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But I think on that basis, we try to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And I think some people take on more than they can chew, and my job is to tell them it's okay. It's okay if you cannot handle it, right? Just tell me, right?
But that's a difficult conversation to have sometimes as a young associate.
It is, especially the really, really garang. Because I've been there, right? I've done like when I was younger, When I was younger, I did like I think my record was 21 working days straight of at least 15 to 16 working hours, right?
Each day,
and that was crazy, right? And that's why I was burnt out. So I've been through that journey, and I keep on thinking I can do it, right? But there's a limit, right? To what we can do personally,
for sure,
and it's not healthy,
yeah,
right? So now I'm facing the problem of trying to tell some really high performers that you need to slow down, right? Because at some point you will drop balls, right? Of which I'll be there to catch, but you need, that is an indication that you need to slow down, and you will not get penalized for that.
Yes.
Right?
That's great that they have that, because they might end up dropping balls which they shouldn't drop. Maybe it's relationships at home, or their health.
Correct.
Or their mental health.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, that's quite scary. And when I want to talk a bit more about when you were a rising star, because you're still a rising star.
No.
But yeah, did you get much support was it more from women or was it from men? I ask this because, we hear so much about women supporting women, and I'm all for it, I'm a big supporter of you, a lot of other women. But I feel a lot of it is lip service, in the sense that women can do so much more to support other women. In fact, I will share very candidly that there were more men supporting me in my journey. So I'm very curious about yours.
I think my experience would be similar to yours. I've actually had more men supporting me, but it could also be because of where I was. There was just simply more men.
Oh, more tech. Yes, that's true.
Right?
But now it's a bit different. Do you see?
Well, now, okay, but then I don't know whether this is politically correct, right? But I think that the true support for women, right, is when we don't need to take affirmative action.
What does that mean?
So basically, that let's say young parents, right? If you recognize that both mom and dad are supposed to help, right? Then you will know that as a male practicing lawyer, there are difficulties that they face, right? In Singapore, at least, okay, I'm not talking about UK or my other offices. In Singapore, we kind of level the playing field a lot by the fact that we have help. We can employ domestic helpers. And I am brought up by the same auntie for 30 years, right? So and of course, that's another topic to talk about. But I think in Singapore, we have access to domestic helpers. And that levels the playing field.
For sure.
For males and females, right? I'm quite old school. I still think that in my pecking order, right? Family comes before work, right? But even with that, my husband's pecking order is also family comes before work.
Yes.
Right? So my take is, if we want to support women, then the men need to be better husbands.
Yes, well said.
Sorry.
No, we both have very supportive and hands-on husbands, so we're very lucky in that aspect.
Correct, and I think that is more important to me, right, than having any artificial standards. Like, we need to have more female partners, we need to have more, you know what I mean, right?
Agree.
Because when you have that support at home, right, that really lays the ground for you to do much better.
Yes,
right.
Agree.
So it's a very simple example. In the last 2 years, my husband stopped traveling because of COVID. My books grew.
Your business grew. For those who
Yeah.
don't know, books she's referring to is the amount of clients, the amount of revenue.
Yeah, and because I could focus a bit more, right?
Yes.
I mean, okay, he's starting to travel now, but thank goodness the boys are bigger. But I realized from this that I would much prefer, to me at least personally, I think my husband's support and the bigger family support was a lot more pivotal than
the external support.
the external support.
Okay, I got
right?
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that could just be exclusive to places like Singapore or Hong Kong, right, where we have access to domestic helpers.
That's
right?
true. That's true.
But I think that's key. And so I think the bigger things like making sure that the children are taken care of. like in the UK, childcare is so expensive. It's quite difficult to practice as a female partner, or actually as a partner if you are the primary caregiver, even if you send them to childcare,
Yeah.
right? So I have colleagues who quit their jobs in the UK and flew to Singapore to practice because she had twins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and she said there's no way I could practice.
There's no way.
Yeah, and so she came here. She's now in house, and she has a new baby girl. She has 3 kids.
Yes.
Under 5.
Yes.
And she said it's impossible to have that in UK.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah.
I think I think fortunately the narrative has changed. So women sort of being maybe the main breadwinner, or having a more demanding job than their husbands is more and more acceptable.
Yes.
And I think for women, I still think there's a lot more that can be done for women supporting women. But I agree with you. Sometimes it's really more about the home support than the artificial support.
The other area that I think that's a little bit more distant from me now, because I'm no longer a sweet young thing.
You're still sweet.
No, but I because I was thinking about it, and I think 20 years ago, there were all these horror stories, right? When young female lawyers being harassed by clients, and actually I have had that, right? Being compelled, right, to do things that they don't really want to do, right? I mean, of course, now things have changed a lot more for the better with the Me Too movement, etc. But I think if that is still happening, right?
I'm sure that's still happening.
Right? If that is still happening, then really just move, because a toxic environment can never be good for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely
I mean,
agree.
if you're facing that, go and find Shulin.
Okay. Yes, indeed. Yes.
Right.
But yeah, I really love the whatever they were saying, because it's so true. Not many people are talking about it. A lot of people would rather sweep it under the carpet. And I mean, even though I'm a recruiter, no longer a lawyer, I have been in situations where I'd rather not be.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it does take courage to speak up. And I think for women bosses, if you see like a junior female associate being put in that kind of situation, we need to do something about that. And we can be. We are in that position that we can. Okay, so wow, that was a heavier topic than I expected. Okay, what is one thing you know now about women and work that you wish you had known earlier in your career?
The first thing is you can always walk away, right? If it's a situation or a client that's toxic, you can always walk away. And I'm not talking about just sexual harassment. Some clients are just difficult, right? You need to know when to cut losses and walk away, right? So that's the first.
I like that. You can always walk away, because a lot of times people think that the narrative is that we have no choice.
Yes.
Like, okay, in order to do well in my job, maybe I just need to suck it up. But that's not really the case anymore.
Well, I guess to a certain level, we always, as an ex-employer, right? We always talk about the strawberry generation, etc., etc. Sometimes unfairly, I must add.
Yes.
There will always be a certain amount of sucking it up, right? Because when you're learning new things, you're venturing into uncharted territories. There will always be that, right? But you must keep at your core clarity of what your value systems are, right? If the environment is so against your values, right, and you cannot take it, and you feel like you cannot work without being a changed person for the worse, then I guess that's when you shall walk away, right?
So how many times have you had to walk away?
Oh, I was quite lucky. I never really had that.
Like it never escalated to
It never,
situation.
it never escalated into that situation. But I think maybe because when I see the warning signs,
Yes.
right, I will just try to cut losses earlier.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's where, I mean, of course, sometimes it gets dragged out, like when you have toxic colleagues, etc. Right. But you just have to work through it. I think.
Yeah. I mean, just to share, same for me. I never had anything that escalated, but I remember this person who was really trying his luck. He was a very senior male lawyer, and he was always asking me to meet him at a hotel lobby lounge for drinks. And it happened too many times. And then I would always say and make it very clear that I think at that time I was either engaged or about to get married. So I'll keep talking about my boyfriend, my fiance, because I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Correct.
But after I was very clear that I'm unavailable, then, you know, the requests for meetings stop.
Yeah.
So I think it's also about trusting your instinct. If you know that there's something off about the situation makes you uncomfortable, you can always walk away.
Yeah, correct. And yeah, I mean that is also a tactic I always use.
Yes. Okay, yeah, we owe a lot to our husbands. Okay, and what do you see as the way forward for aspiring female lawyers in the world of tech? Because there are more women getting into the world of digital assets, metaverse, Web3. How do you think you, as someone who has been there, done that, still doing it, how can you support this next generation of lawyers?
I think the first thing is to stay curious, right? So when I say I don't work over the weekends, I mean I still check emails and stuff, right? But I still read copiously about anything.
Where are your sources of information? Like on the net or books?
Okay, I'm horrible with books, right? So I'm on my mobile a lot, but I subscribe to certain newsletters, etc. So you need to, if this is an area that you're interested in, then you need to read. And the thing about tech is that when we say, oh, you're a tech lawyer, what does that mean? Because tech is not just a silo, right? I mean, the things that I advise on requires actually quite a few practice areas, right? So that means that you need to also know the sector that you're in, right? Because tech is in everything now, right? So you need to know the sector you're in because you need to know how the application of the tech will work or not work in that particular sector, right? So I think being curious is really the best way forward. Having conversations with people. I love having conversations with my geeky friends who are like the software engineers and developers. Even though half the time I have no idea what they're talking about, but
at least you have a flavor.
Yeah, the flavor and you know what the real limits of tech is. You know, when we think about tech, we're like, oh yeah, it's fantastic. We press one button, everything works, right? But it doesn't really work that way. So you need to know what the practical restrictions are, right? And that will make your advice a lot more on point.
Yes. I think it helps that you've worn so many hats. You know, you were a disputes lawyer, you were BD manager in China, launching a mall, and you know, IP litigation, and obviously venture capital, and now the evolving world of tech. And I think what you said is really true, sector specific, because it can be edu tech, can be pharma tech, it's not just tech.
Correct.
You know, what we know of tech, a lot of people are just like, oh, technology companies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And even the laws and regulations are different, right? So, but I guess that's what keeps me going, right? Because it's very interesting and there's always something to learn, right?
Yes.
And I get bored very easily. So it's actually a pretty good area for me to be in. Yeah, because I feel like my mind's working.
So, Ying, we talked a little about how you're a mom to two young boys, aged 5 and 4. A lot of people are going to ask, like, how do you do it? But I want some actionable tips that you can share, because not everyone has access to a village. Yes, we have. I mean, we both have domestic helpers. But just thinking, what are some tips you can give to those out there, both potential mums and dads, who are thinking of starting a family and yet still want to strive in their career?
Okay. I think the first thing is to make sure you operate as a unit with your other half. So my husband and I had very long discussions, right, on how we want to be able to strive in our careers, both of us, and still be responsible parents and children. And one of the conscious decisions we made was to have everyone living together, because we know, at least for us, right, we know that we lack time. Time is not something, it's not a luxury that we have, right? So for example, if I go home and I see my mom and I just say, hi mom, as I walk upstairs, that 1 minute of conversation, which is daily, adds up to more than to me, right? A visit once a month, for example. So my husband and I made a very conscious decision that we want everyone to live together.
Everyone meaning his parents and your parents?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
And our kids, of course.
Wow. It's
And
like huge.
Well, it is, and in a way, because we are taking care of the parents and the children, we are really literally sandwiched, right? And there are sacrifices to be made, of course, because you need a bigger place, you know. So then we will give up on things like, oh, do we really need? And then of course we need a very uncle looking MPV, lah, right?
Yes, yes.
Right.
We all have that. I mean, I have that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
My husband was really upset about it at first, but now he's okay with it. Now he realizes that it's like the greatest choice, right? So you know, then we have maybe lesser dining out because you need a bigger place, right? So things like that. But once you have decided together as a unit, right, then just go through with it.
So
Right.
there are certain trade-offs and you have that discussion. Okay, that's
Yeah.
very good advice. Okay, so to wrap things up, what's one piece of advice you'd give to lawyers who dream of stepping into the world of tech?
Oh, just do it.
Okay.
Just do it. All right.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Okay, so we've heard so much from Ying, the tech lawyer. Before we wrap up the podcast, we like to switch it up and get to the rapid fire round of questions. Get to know Ying on a more personal level. So Ying, can you explain your morning routine in 3 words?
Dragging myself out of bed,
Okay.
looking at my handphone. Actually, no, looking at my handphone first, dragging myself out of bed, shower, Yeah.
Okay, great. And what is your go-to comfort food?
curry chicken.
Oh, yum. Okay, complete the sentence. Female lawyers should...
Just do it.
Okay, good. When are you most productive?
When no one's around.
Okay. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would that be?
I'm quite happy here, Singapore.
Singapore, yeah, same. What is success for you? How do you define success?
Getting 75 marks on everything.
Okay. So you don't have to be the best, as long as you're above average.
Yeah,
Or
but in
doing all-
everything.
In
Yes,
everything.
In every aspect,
Okay.
I mean.
Okay. And if you weren't in law, what industry would you be in?
I think either a financial advisor or interior designer.
Oh, okay. Okay, and chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Oh, yes, same. What is the first thing that comes to mind when I say bar?
Chocolate bar.
Oh, nice. Okay, thank you so much for your time and being a guest on the show. I
Thank
really,
you.
really appreciate it. So if you've enjoyed the show, rate it, review it, rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks so much for listening. Join us next time to find out what could be in store for us after the bar.
Bye.
Bye.